FloCast is presented by Glitter!
Hello, and welcome to FloCast. This is our first episode, and we are a Florence the Machine fan podcast. My name is Michael, and I am joined by my two co-hosts.
My name is Ariel. It's nice to be here.
I'm Emily, and I'm excited to be here too.
This is something we've been talking about for a while. We're here to discuss latest news, music releases, live performance, and any other updates pertaining to the band. We don't have a set recording schedule as yet. As of now, as things are rolling out, it'll probably vary depending on single releases, but a more stable schedule may emerge over time. Before we get into our discussion, I want to make our audience aware of some ground rules that we've laid out for ourselves. We are purely a fan podcast. We are in no way affiliated with the band. And because of that, we want to remain respectful of the band. We want to remain as factual as we can. We want to limit our discussion on speculation, rumors. The band's personal lives are fully off limits. As well as anything pertaining to their appearance, excluding fashion. We will definitely be discussing fashion. We also want to keep this family friendly, unless, of course, the content requires otherwise. For example, if Florence talks about being high on E and holding hands, that's not something we can really dance around. But we're going to try our best. We also are going to also try not to be too opinionated. Of course, we're going to have opinions on things, but we don't want this to just be a personal mouthpiece for our opinions on Hey Girl or whatever. Emily, just to catch us up with the events of the last month, would you like to recap?
Yeah. So starting in the very last week of January, the band released 3 compilations. The first one being titled Water to Drink, Not Write About. The second one being My Favorite Ghosts. And the one after that being Harder Than Hell. And each of them had a different theme, sort of relating to the title that they each had. And we also noticed how they sort of did it after other artists have been doing this as well. And throughout the past week or so, some tarot cards and letters have started appearing in the mail. The first one being received and posted about was by Lily Iger, the band's photographer for the last tour, the Highest Hope tour. And within the past couple of days, people in North America have been getting them, but people in London started getting them first, and in Europe, and more people have been getting them this week, which is very exciting. Billboards and posters have been going up around London, New York City, Australia, Footscray, probably in lots of other places around the world as well. So if anyone happens to see them and wants to post them, we love to see those and love when people share them.
Yes.
And also in a certain apartment in New Orleans, a fan-made poster was also put up. So that was
Shout
also
out
very
to our
exciting.
friends.
Yes. The website was also updated with 15 cards, 14 turned around, and 1 showing the tarot card that was used in all of the ads, and also is the cover of the single. And the teasers went up on Instagram and also on TikTok on this past Tuesday. And the second TikTok was posted after almost a year, and about 3 more were posted after that. So that was really exciting, and we hope to see more of those.
Florence TikToker era.
Yeah, we should talk about this updated website real quick.
The website was updated on Monday.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
These the other 14 cards that are not turned around, when you hover over them, they wiggle a bit, and they will presumably be updated. The general thinking is that these tarot cards all represent songs on the as of now still unannounced album. And I thought it was very humorous that in the social section at the top, it included the TikTok, which at the time of the website updating only had that one TikTok from nearly a year ago. But of course that changed pretty quickly.
Yeah, and it would be exciting if there were indeed 15 songs on this unannounced album. I think that got everybody very excited and really made the era feel like it was starting.
Yeah, because as of now, excluding bonus tracks, the most we've had on an album is 13.
Yeah, and it's exciting to see on the website sort of the aesthetic that we're getting. It's probably our biggest source right now of the aesthetic of the era. So that's very neat to see as well, with sort of the boldness and grand nature of it.
The medieval witchy theme is really getting everyone really excited, I think. I feel like everybody always is calling Florence and the band witches, and so it's fun to see them embracing that, and we'll see if that continues or not
If the shoe
as the cards
fits.
get revealed. Yeah, if the shoe fits.
Like literally, she's actually wearing shoes for once.
It's pretty amazing.
And to get into the teaser photos, so we have the one that we've mentioned that has been on the tarot cards that some fans have received, and also on most of the posters that have been up. There's also another photo that has been included in some of the emails when you sign up to receive updates from the band's website. It seems to emulate Queen Elizabeth I a lot. And Ariel had lots of ideas on that, so I'm gonna let her explain.
Yeah, that one got me very excited because I think A, it was very bold aesthetically, but B, I think I've always been somewhat obsessed with Queen Elizabeth I, and I think that her influence in that picture was clear, like the ruff around the neck, the red hair, the big forehead, etc. And I think it also kind of harkens back to some things that Queen Elizabeth I herself said about like the fact that she called herself a king, even though she was clearly a woman, that she was taking on that role. And I think it also, obviously, we learned later, it related a lot to the lyrics of the song where she says, "I'm no brother, I'm no bride, I am king," since Queen Elizabeth I never got married. She was the Virgin Queen as well. And so it was really kind of teasing the concept of the song. That one's only appeared in emails so far, but I hope that it appears elsewhere later. And of course, they both were taken by Autumn de Wilde, who was revealed to be the director of the music video later, which we're going to talk about in a minute.
Yeah, I think her facial expression in that photo is very interesting too. It's almost intimidating and sort of like, I'm here, I'm back, just the way her expression looks. And
like,
also
serious and scary.
Yeah, it is very both serious and scary. And also in fan emails, there's been a few other images that have been attached to sort of at the bottom, like little written messages saying, "I've missed you all so much," with little drawings. And those are excited to see too, because I think we all get really excited when we see Florence handwriting messages and posting them and sharing them.
Yes, and if you're not on the mailing list, that's where these emails we're talking about are coming from.
Which you can do by going to the website and signing up through there.
You're welcome, FloHQ.
The other image sort of looks like a painting. It's the one, again, that has been appearing the most. It's the cover of the single. It's on the tarot cards, all the posters that have been going up. It's especially interesting to see when you look at the full picture of it, which you can see in their Twitter header and on their Facebook header. She's sort of laying on her back, reclined, and looking into the camera in sort of an intense way. And the color scheme is also very interesting too. It sort of brings out a dark mood.
It's like a stormy sea behind.
Yeah. And also on the cards that we've been seeing and on the envelopes for those, we've been seeing chapter 1. So we don't quite know what that means. It's also included on the tarot card that's on the website. So that'll be very interesting to see if there's other chapters that pop up after that or what they have in store for us.
The placement of chapter 1 for King is interesting because do we think that's chapter 1 in a series of videos, or does that mean it's the first track on the album? This is all purely speculation at this point.
Yeah, and all this has resulted in lots of fan excitement, as we said before, with the cards that have been coming in the mail and all of the teasers, because we haven't heard anything since the single dropped on Wednesday. The band hasn't posted anything the rest of the week, so it'll be exciting to get the next thing.
Yeah, and this is pretty normal for a Florence album rollout. This has happened the last several eras where if people were not clear, by the way, King is a teaser single. There will presumably be a radio single coming in the near future. This is just to hype us up along with the compilations. This is just to get the hype flowing again.
It's like the Sky Full of Song or What the Water Gave Me of this album.
Or the outro to How Big, How Blue, How Beautiful. That was in the teaser for
that was
one.
The biggest teaser. I feel like huge teaser.
And I think also the biggest thing about the aesthetics was how different they were from High as Hope in particular, but even like the last two outputs from the band. And so I think that it really harkened back to in some ways, it harkened back to aesthetics from the first two albums, or at least more grand aesthetics. Obviously, we don't know anymore. We don't know what the overall theme of the album is going to be, but it was intriguing to say the least. Do we want to talk about this? So on Wednesday, we got the song.
Let's get into King.
Like for me personally, I think I really love this song. I've listened to it way too much. I think it's just I think for the last few weeks I've been kind of like, oh, you know what I want to listen to? I want to listen to like new Florence stuff, and now I finally have it, and so that's exciting.
Didn't you break a plate while waiting for the song to release?
I did. I was like so amped up that apparently I can't be trusted to do dishes. And I broke a plate and then I had to very quickly clean it up so that I wouldn't miss the premiere.
You smashed a plate, but not over someone's head.
No. Not. But I think the other thing that's interesting about the song, something that first hit me was just that it seemed to combine a lot of elements from past eras, that it had some of the more kind of quiet spoken word vocals like from High as Hope, some of the more boisterous instrumentals from like How Big and Ceremonials. Obviously, we're going to get into that more later, but I think that was something that I really appreciated about the song.
I really like this song. It's, for me, it's the slow build. It's something we've seen Florence do before. It also indicates to me that it could be an opening track. And we'll talk more about how the vocals gradually build and get more exclamatory.
I like the song a lot, sort of with Michael saying and commenting on the build. I also liked the outro of the song too, when we can hear more harp coming back, and the lyrics to the outro are also very good. But all of the vocal layering is always nice to hear. It's, something Florence always comments on, sort of her signature thing, layering things and making them super grand. I feel like there was a nice balance to that in this song.
I think lyrically, kind of getting back to what I said earlier, I think it does seem to be a mix of the more straightforward High as Hope style lyrics, as well as more lyrical How Big, How Beautiful styles. And I thought I thought it mixed the two really well, and I really appreciated the lyrics. I guess also there was kind of a different way of singing at certain parts, as we mentioned earlier, kind of the speak singing, but also there was even whispering at the beginning. Like, I appreciated that the I am no mother, I am no bride, I am king got progressively louder every time she said it. Louder and more affirmative. And that even her vocals even got a bit growly at points. And there was also the return of the kind of guttural noises from Big God. And I think what's interesting, those points in particular, is that oftentimes the teaser single seems to communicate some sort of artistic intent as opposed to being a big hit. Like, she's trying to communicate something about what the album will be apart from just like what the big single is. And so it'll be interesting to see how many of these things we find in other songs on the album, as well as the use of bass and drums and kind of some folk horror imagery, like woman is a changeling, killer from within, etc.
Yeah, we discussed examples of folk horror that you can compare to like Midsommar.
I feel like I want to do you want to dig into the lyrics a bit more?
Yeah.
Like harking back to some of her more metaphorical writing that she's done in the past. That was interesting to hear again with the I need my golden crown of sorrow, my bloody sword to swing. There was some of that on High as Hope, but it's always interesting to hear her metaphors because she's really good at writing like that.
There's a general feeling of restlessness, whether it's from sitting around being forced inside for a while. She does talk about this in a statement that we'll read in a bit. Florence has never seen herself as having any sort of glass ceiling, even if the industry and the world at large in general very much does have one. And
I think also what many fans have noticed was just that this in some ways seems like a response to No Choir, and also the response to the past teaser single, Sky Full of Song. You can tell what it harkens back to Sky Full of Song with lines like, just drag me by my hair and back on with this show. Whereas in Sky Full of Song, she was kind of saying, like pull me back down, pull me back, ground me again. And in this song, it seems like she's saying, I want to get back out there. And I think also with respect to this response that I just mentioned, the line, but a woman is a changeling, always shifting shape. Just when you think you have it figured out, something new begins to take. That again kind of harkens back to how this song is sort of communicating that she wants to do these grand things again, how she needs this part of herself. Whereas in the past album, many of the songs were talking about her wanting to be, as I said, like dragged back down to earth and be more grounded and find happiness in domesticity. It seems like here she's kind of again talking about like, oh, I thought I wanted more of that. I thought I wanted a balance, but right now I need the dramatic back. I want to go back on stage. I want to go back on tour. It's interesting to see this change and to see this in response to the past output from the band.
I find this song very interesting instrumentally. There's a lot of big band noise in it, a lot of harp, especially toward the end, which is nice to hear again. I mean, harp has always been a part of the band's repertoire, but it hasn't been as pronounced in studio albums for quite some time.
I think everyone was really excited to hear the harp come back in such a large way again, kind of talking back to the harkening back to the first and second album. I guess the last thing to talk about with respect to this song, just in and of itself, is the involvement of Jack Antonoff, who is obviously very well known for being a co-producer on albums like Melodrama, co-producer on some songs in 1989 and various other Taylor Swift albums, as well as firm co-producer of Lana Del Rey, St. Vincent, etc.
Often a co-writer as well.
Yeah, so he's well known for being somebody who very much lets the woman take the lead, and he seems to work well with a lot of these other kind of alt indie women. And I think a lot of us were still very surprised to see him on the credits, partly just because when you listen to it, it doesn't really sound like anything from especially his more recent oeuvre. And also we didn't have any warning that he was going to be involved, and so I think that was something. And we don't know how involved he is in general, like whether he's going to be involved with the rest of the album or just this song. He's done one-offs before, like Michael, you mentioned Carly Rae Jepsen and Spoon. As we said, he's just a co-producer. We'll see how often she felt him necessary on further singles from the album.
TBD. Let's dive into the music video, which I know is the first way that a lot of people experience this song for the first time. So the music video is directed by Autumn de Wilde, who also directed the video for Big God. So there is history here. She has worked with Florence before. Autumn de Wilde, she not only a lot of music videos, but professional photography. She's worked with bands like Stars, The Decemberists, Beck, Rilo Kiley, pretty much every Jenny Lewis project for that matter. She's also worked extensively with Rodarte, who did the costumes for this video. Another
important person to mention is Ryan Heffington. He was the choreographer on this video, and he's been involved in many choreographed sequences, especially of this style of dance. So everything from like certain parts of What Kind of Man from Florence's third album, as well as the Euphoria dance in the most recent episode of Euphoria, or episode 7.
When this goes up, the season finale of Euphoria will have aired. So yeah. We don't want to get into Euphoria spoilers because that's a very hotly discussed show. I'm sure you could find a Euphoria podcast out there.
And also, like, I think Sia's famous dances from her Chandelier music video, as well as I think some of her other music videos. So he's basically been very involved in many different large impact pop culture dances. So it's exciting to see his involvement in this, and it'll be interesting to see if he shows up on any subsequent music videos, as well as Autumn. Interesting to see if she does as well.
So we're now going to get into reading a statement that Florence made on the song. So Florence says in her statement, as an artist, I never actually thought about my gender that much. I just got on with it. I was as good as the men, and I just went out there and matched them every time. But now, thinking about being a woman in my 30s in the future, I suddenly feel this tearing of my identity and my desires. That to be a performer, but also to want a family, might not be as simple for me as it is for my male counterparts. I had modeled myself almost exclusively on male performers, and for the first time, I felt a wall come down between me and my idols, as I have to make decisions that they did not.
Yeah, so as a genderqueer, currently transitioning individual, I am all about the subversion of gender and gender roles. I am all about this. It reminds me of a recent interview I read with Adrian Lenker of Big Thief, as fluidity is a large theme in that band's music. And it really helps sell the patriarchy as a concept rather than a gender specific force that's just held everyone down. And I've seen several interpretations of this, people saying like, oh, it's the non-binary anthem. I haven't seen some of, I'm gonna have a quick little soapbox moment here. I haven't seen these comments myself, but I've heard that some people are perceiving this as, oh, Florence is saying that she has no gender. The very first thing when you're discussing gender in general is never assume someone else's gender. It is a damaging practice because it only reinforces the gender stereotypes that people have tried to get away from. And which I realize this is a very new dialogue for many. And if anyone is confused about that, please feel free to reach out to me. I would be happy to discuss it. But please do not make those kinds of assumptions of someone who's not yourself. All right, soapbox over.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's interesting in general, the reactions that I've seen from people with respect to her use of the word king. I think I've seen takes which range from, like, she's using the word to represent the position, to represent the patriarchy, or she's kind of reclaiming that title for herself. I think there was one kind of bad faith take that I read, which was talking about how she was like embracing the patriarchy in some way, which I don't entirely know where they got that from. But in general, I think that there's like a lot of different ways you can interpret her use of the word king. But I think for me, the biggest thing is what it represents in society. And like, I think it does come across more powerfully than if she was to use the word queen, which she has put upon herself before in Queen of Peace, for example, in the third album. I think maybe to discuss the music video, one thing that we did really want to touch on was the outfit and kind of the overall aesthetic. Obviously, it's recorded in kind of an abandoned building setting. And in the music video, for the most part, the one source of like vibrant color is her outfit, which has many kind of Virgin Mary aspects as well as witchy aspects. Emily, I noticed, or you found that there was some similarities to a depiction of the Virgin Mary, which is Our Lady of Guadalupe.
Yeah, then there's other appearances, like this is me coming from 13 years of Catholic school, also with Our Lady of Fatima, just usually how she appears and the stance that the Virgin Mary has tended to have in artistic recreations of the appearances, like the way Florence first appears in the music video. When the video first starts, you don't see her in the back, and then the camera sort of pans away for a second, and then you see her in the back, and she sort of has her hands clasped together in a very calm way, and her head is sort of looking down, and then she also just kind of moves her head, tilts it to the side, off and on, sort of like she looks approachable. And then that sort of allows the man in the video to sort of want to approach her. And we can kind of see that he's sort of confused about what he wants to do when he comes up to her, and what his intentions are, we don't quite know. Whereas with the Virgin Mary, she usually will have a reason for her appearance, and the children or other people that have seen her, she'll give them tasks to do traditionally. Whereas we don't know if that had anything to do with what they were going for in the video. Clearly, she didn't quite give him a task. She sort of snapped his neck soon after that. So,
and I think also the Virgin Mary, especially at the very end of the video, or not very end, but like the part of the video where she floats above everybody, I think that one made people think about the Virgin Mary. But interestingly, with that, usually the Virgin Mary is depicted wearing red and blue. That's like the most easy way to find her in art. And here she's taking on only feminine colors, which I think is an interesting kind of subversion of that. People also mentioned that she looked witchy, which again is something that is something that Florence is kind of, people have called her a witch many times, and it's nice that it's interesting to see her kind of embracing that fully, embracing the witchiness.
By the way, I have a very similar cloak, just teal colored. at home.
Yeah.
So I'm like,
love
oh,
that for
I am
Michael.
already prepared for this era.
You really are. And I guess the last thing kind of related to the witchiness is that the aesthetic of the video kind of differs from the teaser photos. Like the teaser photos seem much more kind of ornate, whereas the video is comparatively more simple, but it's kind of joined by this like witchy aesthetic in general. There's been a lot of debate as to what the man represents in the video. I think one of my favorite interpretations is that he is kind of the patriarchy. And so when she snaps his neck at the beginning, it's like she's saying you to the patriarchy. Oh, sorry.
We're gonna be in the mature section on iTunes now.
You can edit it out, it's fine. Or he's like a male musician that didn't have to choose between family and career, or he's a partner. And I think the partner aspect is interesting as well, because you can see that at the beginning of the video he resists her control. Like she calls him near her and he's kind of like fighting her powers, whereas at the end he goes to her willingly, which I think kind of again talks to this idea of maybe she's saying like they were fighting at first and then he's like, I accept this about you.
Yeah, and I do think it's interesting that he's back alive at the end there after the previous several minutes. So the two different potential outcomes. And I think it's interesting, especially when she consumes him at the end. It's like she's reclaiming something, becoming whole again. Just a general theme in both the song itself and the video of an emptiness being filled or being conquered.
Yeah, sort of along the same lines of that. It's almost like at the end she's showing, sort of breaking apart from the idea that women have to be gentle and submissive and gracious all the time, whereas when he was coming to her for forgiveness or salvation or whatever it was, she didn't give that to him, which was very interesting to see. She was just, like we said, sort of reclaiming her power and sort of going against the idea of being forgiving all the time, especially if what maybe the man has constantly let her down and she's tired of it.
What do you guys think the floating musicians represent?
I'm not entirely sure what I think they represent, but I think an interpretation that I thought was interesting, I think it was in the Cult Culture article, which we can link below, was they thought of them as they comprise the band she seems to be constructing, creating the orchestra that best suits her own life symphony. So instead of like maybe they're the male musicians that she talks about in her description that she was always trying to emulate, and now she's saying no, we're gonna do this my way. I'm gonna find my own way to make it in the music industry and to make my life.
So you're saying she's like a puppet master in this situation when she's levitating above them?
Yeah, I think so. They definitely seem passive in the sense that they're not moving.
No, they're fully suspended.
And I think I've seen other people talk about the fact that, like, obviously she has the initial man, the other one's kind of floating behind her, that she's being kind of dragged down by the patriarchy and she's like fighting it. And the women that accompany her are kind of helping her fight that influence. And then at the end, she's fought off the influence and she's in control. And the floating men don't have power over her anymore, and she rises above them. Basically, I think there's many ways
to the matriarchy.
Welcome to the matriarchy. Indeed. And I guess this leads us to talking about her, like, coven, her girls in gray dresses. I think I've seen many interpretations of this as well. I think one that I particularly enjoyed, which is from a friend of mine, is that they're her creepy song children. Like, she's talked before in interviews about oftentimes she feels like there's like creepy children kind of calling her back to write songs, to create art. And in this song, she's kind of saying that she needs that part of herself. And she's mentioned before about her songs having this power over her and having this, like, it's like the longest relationship she's ever been in is with her art. And so they're sort of the manifestation of her art and her songs that are helping her and protecting her and guiding her and teaching her. Other interpretations could be the kids she's not having, or they're like the fans themselves, which kind of relate to the art.
Are we the creepy children who keep asking for more music?
Hopefully not. I guess we are, but we try to be polite about it. We understand that things take time and we want the fully formed thing, which obviously we're getting right now, which is very exciting.
Yeah, this is the longest gap between albums by a few months.
Mm-hmm.
So
we've been patient. And now we get to receive, hopefully. I think the other aspect of the women is they're obviously doing fairly feral, raw, unhinged dancing, which is cool to see, and also kind of relates back to maybe Big God a little bit. Many of the dances are actually the same dancers from Big God, which is kind of a cool bit of continuity. And I think in that movie or music video, they were meant to be like different parts of her subconscious or something, kind of protecting her. Kind of like there was like a fractal idea there. And obviously there is
I think we also have to point out how I am also a dancer of Big God, but I was not included in the music video. For the record, I learned this dance in one night and then I recorded it. And
it's on TikTok.
I posted it online. It's on TikTok. It's on my
two
Instagram.
Also did the Queen of Peace dance, didn't you?
We did. Yeah. And for some reason, I have
we are
not
available
been
for
asked
music
to
videos.
be. Yes, I've not been asked to be in any music videos. And then...
so
Emily is available.
Music video directors, if you're listening to this podcast for whatever reason, we have 2 actors available for you.
One actually good dancer and one coachable maybe dancer.
Yes, that's a good word.
Kind of one of the scenes that really sticks in my head from the video is the bit where they're all yelling together. This obviously harkens back to possibly purposely, possibly not, to this scene in Midsommar where all the women are screaming together. I think that got a lot of attention from that in that movie, and it kind of relates back to these like folk horror elements that we were alluding to. Obviously, she did kill a man in the first few minutes, so that's very folk horror of her, as well as some other aspects. For example, one thing that we noticed was that all the women had ribbons around their neck, which might be a reference to a story, a folk story. I think it's called The Green Ribbon, where all the girls in this world have green ribbons either around their neck or on other parts of their body. And in the short story version that I read, which was in a Between Two Books pick called Her Body and Other Parties by Carmen Maria Machado, in this story, the men always are trying to take the ribbons off, or they want to ask what they are or whatever, and the women in the stories resist that, particularly the main woman. And she resisted it until the end. She says, okay, you can take it off, and then she dies. There's a folklore version of that, which I'm less familiar with, but it kind of relates to this idea that men feel entitled to everything women have, and that every woman has this ribbon, this like kind of internal pain that I think we've talked about before, and kind of gets back to this idea that she's taking it back, she's reclaiming it, and also she eats a man at the end, which is also kind of folk horror-y. So we love that for her.
It's her girl boss era.
Yes. And also it's kind of, I think people have talked about how some of the screenshots look very like A24, and Florence did mention an A24 movie with strong religious overtones in her Instagram stories a few months back called Saint Maud, which is a pretty cool movie. So maybe maybe all these references are purposeful. We'll see if the future videos continue this trend.
So any closing thoughts about this song, the video, our hopes for the coming era?
I think I'm very excited about what's to come. I feel like we've only scratched the surface of what's happening, especially given how fully formed aesthetically everything seems to be. I don't even know what's coming, and I'm excited. And I think my overall thoughts on the video were just that, or the video and the song was that I think it just made me excited to see more, which is exactly what a Buzz single should do. I might go try and find some posters tomorrow afternoon.
Yeah, I remember this wall in Los Feliz near me that had a bunch of the Highest Hope ones. So I wonder if that same wall is plastered in King ones. And like, I think when the teaser is this extravagant, that we're going to be in for a real treat.
Maybe there's going to be a poster in Wichita too. I'm the only Florence fan in Wichita, so I mean, it's really not hard.
What's in Wichita?
Julia, yes, shout out to Julia. What's in Wichita?
I know there's a McDonald's because
there's lots of McDonald's.
Your diet consists of
we know there's 2
Pringles and
Freddy's. Yeah, there's lots of Freddy's. There's but Freddy's is like it started in Wichita and has been expanding. I think there's one in Chicago, maybe. I don't know what else. We do have, there's 3 arenas. I think 3. There's one downtown. At least I put these things on the website. So Flow HQ, if you're listening, come to Wichita on tour. I will submit another request to come to Wichita. There's not very many cool vintage stores or anything, which maybe I shouldn't have said because that won't be very appealing to members of the band, but that's okay. Yeah.
Are there
And
perfume stores?
Perfume stores. Does Pink or Victoria's Secret count?
No.
I have
Or
no
Bath and Body
opinion.
Works.
Sure.
Bath and Body Works.
And I am from West Hollywood, which is the gay part of Hollywood.
We're proud of you for that.
Thank you.
Oh, I guess the other thing with respect to the podcast in general is that this is a bit of an experiment. We're really interested in your thoughts on this. We're still trying to figure out exactly how it's going to work. So if you have any thoughts or if you like what you hear, please let us know. And thank you for listening.
Yeah, Ariel, you set up an Instagram and a Twitter account for FloCast, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
The FloCast.
The FloCast. Okay. So that's a handle for those. Please let us know thoughts, suggestions. If there's something you really loved. If there's something you really hated, please let us know those things.
We'd love to hear from all our fans and haters.
Shout out to the haters.
Hope you enjoyed, and we will see you next time.